Good morning, everybody. My name is Lydia. I am an interpreter for California State Parks. And an interpreter is basically like a fancy word for teacher. So I have the lucky job of getting to teach students like yourselves from all over California, from all over the world about the desert. Because today I am in beautiful Anza-Borrego Desert State Park. I am really out here, my friends. We've got a beautiful park day today. It is a gorgeous day out, maybe going to be in the 70s. I'm actually not so sure today, but it's amazing outside here today. And I want to know, first of all, before we start sharing some of the things that I know about this beautiful desert park, I want to know from you all, this is fourth grade. Why do we think we have parks like this out here in the desert, or maybe out where you live? Why are parks important here in California? I want you all to brainstorm with each other. So turn to the people next to you, in front of you, behind you, brainstorm with each other. What are some reasons why parks are important? Okay, so I see some of you have been typing into me, but some of you might be thinking about, well, parks are an important place for nature. So we protect these natural spaces. We're not going to build any golf courses or shopping malls out here. This is protected land. So we'll always have this beautiful nature to enjoy. But some of you might have also thought about the plants and the animals that live here, right? This is their home. It's not our home. We're just visitors here, but we are protecting this space so that all of these plants and animals will continue to have a safe place to call home. And in addition, some of you might have been thinking about not only are these, beautiful natural spaces with a lot of really cool wildlife here, but these parks are a place where we might be able to come and learn about our history, or maybe about other cultures with really cool cultural sites, or historical significance to these parks. Now, Anza-Borrego, I'm going to give you all kind of a background of where we are here today. Is in sunny Southern California. I'm going to share a photo with you all of a map of California. So in your classroom, you might be able to find, where on the map do you live? These are all of our California counties. And if I were to show Anza-Borrego here, I would have to draw, wow, that's a really big circle, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe like that kind of circle right there. And this is an artistic drawing of Anza-Borrego. We are the biggest state park in California. We span about 650,000 acres and 3 different counties. So we're mostly in San Diego County, but we also have Imperial County and Riverside County within these park boundaries. So we're all the way down here in sunny Southern California, and hopefully, some of you might have the opportunity to visit someday. Maybe some of you can put it on your bucket list. But it's a really wonderful, beautiful, big park, and we have a lot of things. We've got really rich history here. The land that I stand on today is the traditional homeland of the Kumeyaay and the Cahuilla Native American peoples. They are the first stewards of this land, the first peoples to take care of and protect and live alongside this land. And I'm going to do my best to continue their ancestors' legacy of being a steward by sharing the things that I love about this park. And hopefully you all will work to become stewards of parks near you as well. We also have a really cool geology and paleontology and wildlife here in the park. And what we're going to do today is we are going to talk about that landscape. We're going to talk about the geology here. In fact, I'm going to point out something standing behind me here. This mountain right here is a very special mountain. We call it Indian Head Mountain. And it's called Indian Head Mountain because there's actually a face on the mountain. All right, so if we're looking at the face, you're looking at the side of the face, like you're looking at my face right now, but the face is leaning back like this, looking up in this direction here. Okay, I'm gonna try and point it out for you all. Okay, we've got a nose right here, right tip of the nose, kind of dips down to where the eye would be. Got a nice little eyebrow bone there, and then a big feather headdress or Native American headdress coming down the mountainside here. Can you all see that? This is what we call Indian Head Mountain. And if you're able to look even closer, the nose itself is also another face in the same direction. So depending on where you are, that kind of sticks out more or less. But from this angle, I really like looking at the whole mountainside here as the face. And Indian Head Mountain is right by our visitor center out here, some of our campgrounds. I'm in front of our park headquarters. And so it's a place where people see it. It's kind of like an icon of our park. But in order to figure out, you know, where Indian Head Mountain came from, how on earth it came to look like a face, we've got to think about what is this made out of. And on this entire planet, there are 3 main rock families, which every rock on this entire planet fits into one of these 3 categories. And it has to do with how these rocks are formed. And we can see evidence of all 3 rock families here in our park, but on Indian Head Mountain, especially 2 of the 3. There might be some evidence of a 3rd rock, but we're gonna focus on 2 of them with Indian Head Mountain here. We'll focus on the 3rd somewhere else. And so our first rock family, this might be something we've learned about maybe in 3rd grade, maybe even earlier, maybe we're learning it now. Our first rock family is called igneous rock. I want everybody, wherever you are, I want you to shout out, igneous. So let's think about how igneous rocks are formed. First of all, some of you might know, and my best, definition here is that all igneous rocks are formed, well, underground, originally as magma. Now that magma can cool down really quickly or cool down really slowly. It can cool down above ground or underground. And it's gonna form different types of rocks along the way. So for example, one igneous rock that I can think of might be a lava rock. Right? A lava rock, lava shoots out of a volcano, hits the nice cool air, starts to cool down pretty quickly, forms this nice heavy lava rock. Another type of igneous rock that might have been formed above ground could be a rock that looks like this. Does anybody know what this is? This is obsidian. And obsidian is a really cool rock here. It's formed by that lava that shoots out of the volcano. But instead of just immediately cooling down, it's interacted with water. So when water and lava interact, they can form obsidian here. Now, I've got to be really careful when I'm handling obsidian because it is one of the sharpest materials on Earth. It can be sharpened down to the single molecule, making it sharper than a razor blade or a surgeon's scalpel. It is so, so sharp. And because of that, historically, it's made a really great tool. Now, let's think about this. Indian Head Mountain, my friends, technically, it's not a volcano, and it never was. We do not have any evidence of volcanic rocks or volcanic activity in this area over thousands and thousands of years. And so, you know, obsidian and lava rock really aren't something that we would find out on Indian Head Mountain. But sometimes we still find maybe little pieces of obsidian or fragments of obsidian. Why do we think that might be? Why would we find this obsidian out here if it doesn't naturally occur here? I want you to turn to the people next to you, in front of you, behind you. If you're at home, maybe jot down your ideas, brainstorm. Why do we think we find obsidian out here in the middle of the desert, you know, where there wasn't volcanic activity? Okay, so I gave you all a few hints. I see some of you have been typing into me. But obsidian was used by Native American peoples like the Kuya and the Kumeyaay for spearheads for hunting. And so when we find these pieces of obsidian out here, this is, you know, evidence of the cultures that have existed here for thousands and thousands of years. So it's not something that naturally occurs out here, but it's a really cool learning opportunity to see, evidence of those cultures here. And so technically, my friends, you know, lava rock, obsidian isn't what makes up our beautiful Indian Head Mountain. And I know you all are like, well, Lydia, tell us what makes up Indian Head Mountain. And it is a different type of igneous rock. In fact, this igneous rock, well, it was formed underground. So instead of spewing out of a volcano, it took its time cooling down over a long period of time. I'm talking thousands of years underground. And that magma, you know, it took its time cooling down and cooling down and cooling down and eventually formed this really cool granite rock. Now, granite rock has this cool black and white and gray and sometimes beige coloring. Sometimes you might see shiny evidence of crystals, maybe quartz running through this cool granite here. But I've got a question for you all. If our our granite rock here was formed deep down underground, we know that there was no evidence of volcanoes out here. Well, how is it that this rock was lifted up from underground to form these huge mountains out here, all over the place out here? We've got tons of granite rock here. So what could have caused our mountains to lift up from underground to stand where they do today? Brainstorm with each other. I'll give you another 10 seconds. What do we think? Okay, my friends, hopefully you got a couple answers out there. And I'm going to maybe answer it by asking you all a question. How many of you have ever felt an earthquake before? I bet lots of us living in California have felt earthquakes before. Even if you've never felt an earthquake, I bet you've still experienced one because they happen here in California a lot. And they are caused by our tectonic plates. Now, tectonic plates are these giant masses of rock, these big plates of rocks, not like our dinner plates, these giant thick masses of rock that are completely covering our planet. And the problem with the tectonic plates is they're all trying to move around, but they're all in each other's way. So where two plates meet, we call a plate boundary. And that plate boundary runs right up the state of California here. And anytime they're able to slip or move just a little bit, they cause that jolt, they cause that earthquake. And historically, there was massive plate movements where these plates crashed together and lifted up all of this really cool rock that we can see behind us here on Indian Head Mountain, and exposed it and lifted it up from underground so that we could see it here today. And so we have our shifting plates to thank for seeing our granite rock, our igneous rock out here. But in addition to our igneous rock, the tectonic plates also lifted up a second rock family. Okay, so in order to explore our second rock family, I'm going to share with you all some photos. Okay, and these photos are taken right at the base of Indian Head Mountain. And they are, really big rock walls and boulders. And I'm already kind of giving you some descriptions, but when you look at these photos, I want you to, first of all, I want you to be a scientist. And to be a good scientist, we all have to make lots of observations, okay? So I want you to think about, what do you notice? What do you think? What do you wonder? Does these rocks, remind you of anything? Do you notice any colors, shapes, patterns? Any possible observation you can possibly make is a great observation. All right. So share with the people next to you, find a partner. If you're by yourself, feel free to jot down some notes, maybe make a little sketch of what you see, and we will see what we can discover here. Okay, so I'm going to pull up two photos here, turn to the people around you, and share with each other. What do you notice? Okay, so hopefully you all made some excellent observations. When I look at these photos, some of the things that I notice are the patterns that you can see on these rocks and the different colors that exist here. Some people tell me that they think this rock right here looks like bacon. It looks like a bunch of strips of bacon with, more reddish colors and grayish colors and tannish colors. This first photo here, I think kind of looks like it has a face on it, a smiling face on the side here, with gray and white and different colors. So these patterns and these colors are important to notice, because this rock right here, and these rocks represent our second rock family. These are called metamorphic rocks. Okay, some of you might have been thinking maybe it was our third rock family, but these are our metamorphic rocks. And metamorphic rocks are really, really cool. They're also formed underground. Right, similar to our igneous rocks, but instead of being formed by that magma, these metamorphic rocks are formed by other rocks, older rocks. In fact, so let's imagine we're going to build our very own metamorphic rock, okay? But instead of using rocks, because that might be tricky for us to do, we can use Play-Doh or model magic. And if this is something that you can do after today's program in your classroom or at home, you're going to take two different colors, Play-Doh or model magic. I'm going to, pretend I've got some blue Play-Doh and some yellow Play-Doh, and I'm going to take my two colored Play-Dohs and I am going to squish them together. All right, we're going to pretend that this is underground. And all metamorphic rocks need two special ingredients, right? They need heat and they need pressure. So we're gonna add a lot of heat by squishing our hands, or sorry, add a lot of pressure by squishing our hands together. We're gonna add that heat by rubbing our hands together, right? When we rub our hands together, our hands getting warmer or colder? They're getting warmer, right? We're adding that friction and we're keeping our hands, really, really tight and pressure, adding that pressure together. Well, when we roll out our Play-Doh, what are we gonna find? Well, maybe I will notice some yellow swirls. Maybe I'll notice some blue stripes. Maybe I'll notice some mixtures, some greens in here. These metamorphic rocks are mixtures of older rocks that have been molded together with heat and pressure underground. And so these metamorphic rocks, well, since they're made from lots of different types of rocks, they can look like a lot of different things. Some of them can look striped and layered. Some of them can look more marbled. Marble is a great example of a metamorphic rock. Some of them can look like a solid color. A lot of them sometimes look shiny. You can see how shiny my rock is here today. They come in kind of all different shapes and sizes and colors and patterns, but they're these really cool rocks that are formed, again, deep down underground, but by other rocks instead of magma. So, okay, we've talked about our igneous rocks. We've talked about our metamorphic rocks. Those are the two rock families that really make up this beautiful Indian Head Mountain. But, not only are these rocks being built up over time and these mountains being built up over time, but they're also breaking down over time as well. And a great example of how these rocks have started to kind of break down and how they change over time, I'm going to actually take you to a different place. All right. Indian Head Mountain, we definitely have a lot of examples of this as well. But if I turn my camera here, man, what a beautiful day. We'll see how this mountain just kind of slopes downward here, and then it kind of evens out way out here, kind of flattens out and turns kind of a tannish color. Well, out there is a place called the Badlands. And the Badlands are made up of our third type of rock and are a really great example of how our land changes over time. And so in order to show off the beautiful Badlands, I'm going to share with you all some photos. And again, I want you to make as many observations as you possibly can. This time I'm going to share 4 photos, so we've got even more time for observations. So what do you think? What do you notice? What do you wonder? Any colors, patterns, shapes, anything you can possibly notice, share with each other, write down at your desk or wherever you are, or make some sketches, whatever you please. Let's be scientists. What do we think, my friends? Make some observations. Okay, my friends, hopefully you made some excellent observations here. Some of the things that I like to notice when I look out on the Badlands here, and I see some of these really cool rock walls and mountains and things like that, I like to notice especially on this picture here, all the stripes that you can see across these mountains. These patterns are very distinct here, as opposed to our metamorphic rocks. We're noticing really flat stripes running across all these mountainsides with different colors here. You can even see them here kind of tilted, but still very straight lines running across these mountainsides. And the Badlands out here, these mountains are made up of our third rock family known as Sedimentary rock. All right, everybody shout out Sedimentary. Okay, so our sedimentary rocks out there are really, really cool. They're made up of these rocks and layers of the earth that have stacked on top of each other over time. In order to kind of understand this, I want us to go back in time. All right, let's go back 10 million years. All right, let's say that 10 million years ago, there was a really big earthquake. All right, and that earthquake, instead of lifting things up, we're going to say that earthquake caused a big rock fall. And all these rocks came tumbling down the mountains and covered the ground in front of us. Then let's say, how about 5 million years ago? Let's say 5 million years ago, there's a big flood. And all of that muddy water comes whooshing down and covers the ground in that thick layer of mud. Then, okay, let's say 1 million years ago, a little bit more recently, say 1 million years ago, there's a volcanic eruption somewhere, maybe like Mammoth or Yellowstone. And all of that ash that gets blown up into the sky eventually starts to settle down. And what we're left with is a thin layer of volcanic ash. So we've got a layer of rocks, a layer of mud, a layer of volcanic ash, so on and so forth. All these different layers of different types of sediments have stacked on top of each other over time and form what we see here today as these really cool striped mountains. Typically, though, we'd be standing on the top layer, right? And everything else would be buried underground, one layer underneath the next. But because of those plate tectonics, because of those earthquakes, we've also had this lifting of these mountains out here. And we call them the Badlands because, well, did any of you see any evidence of water out there? Maybe you might have seen where you think water went through, but I didn't see any water out there right now. Did any of you see lots and lots of plants and trees and, lush grasses? No, not too much wildlife, not too much plant life. It's a really dry, harsh place. And historically, there were Spanish explorers that came through this park. And they described that land as the Mal País, or the bad country. And so the Badlands really refer to how dry and harsh it is out there. But all Badlands today that exist on different parts of this planet represent areas with sedimentary layers. In these layers, they tell us about our history. They show us different events happening in time as you go back in time. And they are constantly changing. Because, these mountains, not only have they been built up, but they're also breaking down. And change is a really cool part of the Badlands because, well, say when you have an earthquake and it causes a rock fall, or maybe you do get rain out here in the desert and it causes water to flood down and muddy water to take away some of those sediments and wash away some of that rock out there. Maybe when you have a big windstorm, a sandstorm out here in the desert, and it starts to kind of brush against these rocks, starts to smooth them out or make them crumble or fall. These rocks are also constantly breaking down. And the cool part about that out in the Badlands is that this sedimentary rock is the perfect resting place for fossils. And out in the Badlands, we have lots and lots of fossils. In fact, I brought one to share with you all today. All right. So maybe share with the friends next to you or sketch it out. What do you think this is? My friends, this right here is a shell. But what animal lives in these shells? In fact, what animal makes shells? This belongs to a snail. Okay, so we have a lot of really, really cool fossils that we can discover out in the Badlands because you know those sedimentary layers are these perfect conditions for these creatures or plants or whatever it might be to be buried underground and fossilize over thousands to millions of years. If we think about, say, let's go back to our igneous rock. Our igneous rock formed by magma cooling down. Well, do we think fossils could form in magma? Probably not. Those fossils would probably melt, right? So our fossils can't be formed in igneous rock. Could our fossils be formed in our metamorphic rocks? Well, let's see. Those metamorphic rocks are formed by older rocks with heat and pressure deep down underground. I'm thinking the heat and pressure is probably going to crush all of these fossils. So these fossils can really only be found in our sedimentary layers out here in the Badlands. But you know, by discovering and studying and observing these beautiful landforms that we see here around us, we can learn a lot. We can learn about maybe the types of animals or plants that lived here a long time ago. We can see how these mountains have been built up over time and observe how they change as well. When we find, obsidian and different rocks and tools out here, we learn about cultures that have found their homes here over thousands and thousands of years. So there's a lot to explore and discover when you're outside and you explore nature. And so I encourage you all to get outdoors, explore nature, figure out what parks are working to protect near you, because all parks exist to protect something awesome. And here at Anza-Borrego Desert State Park, we have a lot of really awesome geology here, but there's also much more to discover as well. So if you're able to come to any of our next programs, I highly encourage you to. But otherwise, get outdoors, explore nature, visit your local state parks, and maybe someday you'll get to come out here and visit the desert. All right. Thank you all so much for having me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.